Hi. Hey, didn't even start with an image of myself just then. I must be growing as a person. But it was an accident. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's have it. Hi. Okay, we're going to be doing this. Selma Savolainen, In the Shade is her new album. She's really cool. She's a Finnish singer and maybe some other things as well, but mainly singer and songwriter, composer, let's say, as well. Let's not just pigeonhole into songwriting, although that is specifically what I know her for. Her previous album, Horror Vacui, was cool, very unusual, sort of boundary-pushing jazz, I would say, is the main sort of center of that. This is similar. This new album has a similar aesthetic, but it sort of approaches it in different ways, I suppose. I don't know. It's very varied. She's a very good singer. Go and have a listen to it. But let's have a dive into this song, Last Summer, which starts the album off in bombastic fashion. Let's hear it. Okay, well, what are you thinking from that didgeridoo? Perhaps, but I looked into the credits. Annoyingly, we don't have any specific instruments mentioned on the credits. We have individual people, and I've looked all these up. One is a saxophonist and woodwind specialist. Now, there's a chance a saxophonist and woodwind specialist might also play didgeridoo. Who was that again? I think it's Max Zenger. Yeah, Max Zenger. As well as we also have Tommy Niku on this, who is a trumpeter. Thomas Keski Santi, who is a pianist, or no doubt keyboardist as well. And we have... Oh, actually, did I forget to look up Eero Tikkanen? I did. Hold on a minute. Okay, bass player. Okay, yeah, that makes sense because I didn't actually find a bass player. So Eero Tikkanen plays the bass, and Okko Sastamoinen is a drummer. So we've got a pretty straightforward setup there. Really, we've got drums and bass, two classic solo instruments for jazz, the trumpet and the saxophone / is it a didgeridoo? And then we've got vocals as well coming up later. So everything there is a classic ensemble. Oh, and we've got some piano as well, so that's a little extra, but that is also really common. But yeah, why do we think it sounds so interesting this beginning? It's because it's got that low note, and over the top of it, we can hear this kind of warping, strange harmonic spectrum changing over the top, which is so indicative of didgeridoo. But maybe it is just a bass saxophone being played pretty interestingly here, or even a baritone saxophone. Because you can hear this, that one especially, doing this kind of thing in the harmonic spectrum. It's like vibrato, but we can really hear the specific pitches coming in and out. As well as that, we've got this thumping groove, played on quite a lot of toms, and with I think it's like an offbeat hi-hat, probably a pedal, I suppose. It's not just on the offbeat. I think it's like okay, but anyway, yeah, it's got a lot of movement in the drums, quite free, so it's not just constantly doing the same thing over and over again. But yeah, for those first 10 seconds, it's pretty much just those two things, isn't it? Just setting some kind of scene. Let's hear it one more time. Yeah, It almost feels like there's two percussionists because there's quite a lot of different percussion happening, and that dig 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 really feels like it's got, well, it's happening here and it's happening over in the right. It's definitely on two different drums. The way that the drum kit is set up in the stereo spectrum does feel quite dynamic and unusual. So let's add some reasons why we love music then, from what we've got here. We definitely love bari sax, which is what I assume it is. Baritone sax. We love creative panning, which is something you don't get actually very much really now. Panning can be really off-putting, and I think therefore people often use it sparingly, but I think that's really sad, because panning is very exciting when it's a creative thing. Just listen to like Jimi Hendrix records and you hear things flying all over the stereo spectrum. It's really fun. I mean, we do like the drums. I guess you could make a case for it being like heterophonic or something like that, which I think is a bit of a contentious term. But we've got lots of different drumming patterns going on in this kind of area, and it's quite improvised feeling as well. So we'll definitely put improvised feel down, because that's an old classic. And this is just in these first 10 seconds. Oh, it fell. Wow. We also obviously like the play with the harmonic spectrum. So yeah, harmonics. We'll just put harmonics, I suppose. Harmonics in all of their varieties are nice. All right. Okay. So when we get into the song proper, what happens? There's one extra added bit in the percussion there that I wasn't expecting. This kind of sort of felt like it was a little off from the other things, maybe a little late in comparison to the really well, tightened groove that everything else is exhibiting. Maybe it's like a tambourine. Maybe that's what Selma's doing. I don't know. But yeah, that was added there. But the main thing that's added in that previous section that we heard is some low keyboard, basically giving us our down, our main sort of rhythmic groove. Yeah, so it's like a... That equates to basically a C power chord and then an A power chord. So they're not giving us that much harmonic context. The C matches the low C of the bari sax. And the most interesting thing that's happening at the same time is the fluttering harmonics over the top of that bari sax. And I think it does change note, or at least changes what's going on as the chord changes. Let's just hear that again. Yeah, we have a moment there where it does this higher thing, presumably looking for that low frequency. Yeah, so where's that? That should be an E, I guess. Yeah. So it's an E to go with the A power chord. That works fine, but it's not the root note now, so it has a little bit of a different relationship. Yeah, so we've got like, how long is it on each of those? Is it 4 bars? Yeah, so I think it's 4 bars of 4/4 on each chord, which is quite a long time. It really settles into that place, and the melody is very appropriate to the A there. D, 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 D. That's like a C sharp, D, E, A, C sharp, 3, 4, 5, 1, 3. Sorry, that would be what it was if it was over the A, but it's over the C, which means it's actually an E, F, G, C, E. Okay, but it's the same relationship to the chord there, and that's all really consonant and straightforward. Stepwise with a big jump down. It's not too complicated. Let's hear it one more time. Yeah, and then so when we go to the A, ask you to, we get the C sharp there against what was the C. So we had a C with all its C majorness to it. And then we get ask you to. So a disruption of our tonic center, if you like. So yeah, a little bit of chromatic relationship there, but they have the E in common. Ask, do, 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 do. It comes down in a different way, but it relates the two. That E connects them both. So it's kind of a pivot point. We're getting fun rhythm from that saxophone now. Yeah, so the drums are so free, especially when it comes to sort of fill points. So right before the return of the other chord, we're going between the two chords. Right before one comes, it'll go and do some quite complicated, rhythmic stuff. It's very exciting. I can't go deep into it, but it is cool stuff, and that freedom is really infectious and exciting. Are we going to get a straightforward repetition now that we've come to maybe a second verse? Yeah, very similar. Just a little bit on the melody. I mean, it's really two of the same phrase, do, 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 twice, with the second one having a little coda on it that leads into a slightly different phrase. Do, 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 do. And that's really all there is to those. It's not particularly complicated. It's nice to get a bit of repetition, but it's not something we love. It's just what we might expect, really. Yeah, you can hear this kind of harmonic there. Yeah, so it's not going to be an A, because the E doesn't really have an A harmonic in it. It's going to be a slightly like an A sharp kind of thing, giving us a slightly uncomfortable A power chord there. Can you hear that? Yeah, and as he's holding the note, it's slightly pitch shifting, and it goes slightly higher as well. Really exciting. Just in these little things. When you're listening very close, you start to enjoy different things to when you listen less close. Yeah, so same chord repetition there, but we didn't have a vocal melody over the top. We had instead two different things happening. One was, I think, a keyboard going doo doo doo. So that's a different but still stepwise and simple melody over the C. So it starts on a D, not part of that chord, but still part of the key, and ends, after moving past the nice note, the C, on the major 7 of that chord. Okay, so then we've got a C in the power chord, wow, going against the B up there in the melody. Okay, nice enough. And then we get this kind of, is it in sixths? Not quite. But 1 is the melody of the vocal, da 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 da, and then there's, I think, a lower one by the sax. The higher one, I think, is by trumpet. Let's hear one more time. So there's our high sort of synth melody. Yeah, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so it's actually in fourths, which is actually quite strange, and holds that low B in the sax for quite a while. Against the C. So we've got and we've got dissonance, held dissonance. We do like a bit of held dissonance. Parallel fourths is quite a fun thing as well, but we don't fundamentally like it. Held dissonance. Let's get it in. That says held. Just when, you know, things are not quite how you would expect, there's a little bit of outness to 2 notes together. Yeah, fun. And then we get the same melodies, but now they're over a different chord. So there, that held B is still dissonant with the chord, but now it's an A chord instead of a C chord. Ooh, doo, so it has a slightly different relationship. So there, over that C, we've now got a different melody. We've still got the synth melody over the top. Maybe it's a guitar melody, to be honest. I haven't heard much bass in here, so maybe the bassist is playing guitar. Maybe not. But anyway, the vocal melody now is "You missed last summer." Da, da, ba, da. So it's doing a different phrase, more of a pentatonic phrase, not as stepwise exactly, and also kind of moving a bit faster, isn't it, and repeating a lot more. Slightly higher as well. Oh, okay, and then we're going into something different. So that ending, her new lover, just keeping that D on there. So that D doesn't really fit with the C chord or the A chord. And we finish on the A chord there, so holding the D and the A, a little bit of an odd thing, but not overly uncomfortable, is just not resolved in a way we might expect for the end of a melody. Yeah, not much to say. I thought I had something else to say, but it's gone. Let's see how that continues on then. Well, it's not quite that, is it? Ah, dang. I'm going to have to listen again. Yeah, that's fun. So it's kind of pattern melody. Da da da, up down, and then we go up again, and then we go up, and then we start the pattern again. Up down, up, up, up down, up, up, up down, and it just finishes before we continue on. We could keep going forever, but instead we have 4. And they're kind of spelling out like an A7 chord. With the main beats all featuring the notes of A7, and the offbeats coming straight after featuring the notes of, I guess, a B minor 7, just one note higher. And that's in octaves between the sax and the trumpet. We get some interesting notes in the bass here. Also, we don't have the keyboard per se. Oh, hang on. Is that actually... Oh, God. Have I just made a big mistake? Is it actually... No, okay. There is definitely keyboard there, but maybe there's also upright bass going dum dum along with it. It's not very audible, but it could well be there. I'm going to turn it up a bit. Anyway, where were we up to?
What was the name of...
Yeah, so she holds that. Yeah, so I can't hear the bass note for when we start there, but there's this note, and then they start doing, and then it comes down for what changes to a low E. So that's a new chord for us, which I guess is like an E minor because we get the G in it. Yeah, but it feels oddly bright. Not entirely sure why, but... that's why. Is that right? That seems a bit strange. Yeah, it is there. Right. Oh yeah, no, it's the whole way. Okay. So we got, yeah, not an A dominant 7th chord, but more of an A major 7 chord, and then that then translates to an E dominant 7th when it changes, but all with that D, which is not quite settling. There might be a G in there. Ah, man, it's a little hard to hear. That's what I hear, which would be a G, yeah. Oh, okay. So we've got that low G held very, very softly in the bass, and then we've got the D. Now those two go together very nicely, but then we've got the bum 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 bum. So, well, what that is false relations. It's a G sharp versus a G, and they're not held very strongly together. One is quite quiet and the other is very fast, but nonetheless, false relations. Let's get them in. I love false relations. Those then dissipate by the time we get to the E chord. Are we going anywhere from the E chord? We've still got the same groove kind of going on in the background, haven't we? That hasn't changed. Fun. So yeah, we resolve very nicely to a B chord. Well, that's very different to the C that we had at the beginning. Proper clear B major as well, up in the vocals, and that changes. I think it changes our pattern. Let's hear it again. It doesn't actually, but it fits our pattern quite nicely, and we get a second saxophone, I suppose, up there. We've still got the other two in octaves, the trumpet and the low saxophone. We've still got those, but we've got doo coming through, I think, on another saxophone. Yeah, it must be. And then doo doo doo, it moves down, whereas the vocal melody moves up. Okay. Is that back to a D? Sorry, a G. I think it is back to a G. And that's what the top melody does, isn't it? That's actually an F sharp. So giving us a G major 7 there. And the bass saxophone has sort of caught up somehow with the trumpet, and now they're in unison. Still the same pitches, still the same motif. Motivic pedals, do we like motivic pedals? Yeah, sure, I'll write it down. So a motivic pedal is when you don't have just one note held across several different bars, maybe several different chord changes, but you have a whole motif that doesn't change. So these are really common in minimalist music, but also in loads of styles of music. Just like, I'll play you an example. You could have just like right? So you keep the same sort of little bit of melody repeating over lots of different changes from everyone else. That's the main concept of a motivic pedal. So we're going through the same set of changes here. We went back from the G to the E, back to the B. That's not right, is it? That's what it is. Well, I keep wanting to put it on the B for some reason. But that B does now feel like our sort of main focus point. I really like these chords. They are very epic sounding. They're used in loads of epic kind of music. Oh yeah, that's In Bloom actually, isn't it? It then continues on and makes it really nasty with those two ones. But In Bloom uses it. I would say they're less epic in Bloom maybe, but they're in the Worm part of Starship Trooper by Yes, where we really come down. What else? The classic one I go to is I Can Go with the Flow. Don't say it doesn't matter. That's not where it is. But yeah, Go with the Flow by Queens of the Stone Age uses the same ones as well. Sometimes this first one is minor and then it sort of unites them a bit better. And if this one's minor as well, that really works very nicely. They can all fit in the same key. But when they're all major, you get this big shifting feel because we have these chromatic lines hidden. There's that one, and there's no, actually that's the one uniting note, da, 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 that's in all of the chords, and then da, 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 right, which is the proper melody in Bloom. So we have this one descending chromatic while another is an ascending chromatic, and then we have them connected by this this one note that is common to all chords. So I've got to write down that I love this chord sequence, and I'm just going to write down what I see it as, which is 1 to 6 flat 6, I suppose. 1 to flat 6. Oh man, absolute pigs here. 1 to flat 6 to 4, and all of them major. Yeah, we like that. it's just so dynamic, the way that the chromatics shift, and they give this brightness, this ever continuing brightness as we go to each chord. Okay, and then we're back to where we started, albeit with a high saxophone note instead of a low. And it's back to C. That's the added second to that chord, or the suspended second, if you want to think about it that way. This is not a clear major chord, it's a power chord, so we don't have that that brightness of the major or the darkness of the minor. We just have this kind of added note to the chord, so it's a little more confusing emotionally. Whereas that one feels a little clearer as we change to the A. Boom. Well, we have the B held against it, so that's again the added ninth, the added second, but we had a C on the way down, so this gives it more of that minor kind of feeling, a minor ninth kind of feeling, just in that little passing note there. Although, oh, that's some clashy stuff. So that gives us the major 7 on that A chord, but then we move straight back to the C, and then we've got a G sharp against a G again, more false relations. This is the aggressive side of jazz. Was that a saxophone in the background, or was that a trumpet blare? I sometimes can't tell the difference. I think it was a trumpet though. Yeah, so the trumpet is just giving us individual notes there, whereas this higher saxophone, maybe an alto, sounds actually slightly lighter than an alto, maybe. I'm not so familiar. It could be an alto, but it sounds quite light and airy. That's giving us our main sort of melody here, and it's over the same changes as our main section. It's not our, I guess, transitional section here, is it? We've gone back into our first main section, although the whole time there we kept the same drum groove, so it's never felt too different across anything so far. But yeah, it's giving us our main melody. It seems like the G sharp is just part of that scale that it's playing, and it doesn't really matter if that matches the chord or not. There's a nice dissonance. Boom, C, ooh, with an F sharp. Ooh, doo, doo, doo. Well, that's the sharp 11 of the chord, if you like, but none of these chords are full chords. It feels more like an aggressive, like rock basis, albeit slightly textured differently. But having that doo against the chord still cuts hard. And there's the G sharp again. Okay, so there we did move down from the G sharp to the G to match the C chord. We're also in a much higher range now, aren't we? Much more sort of squawky, screamy kind of area. And that trumpet keeps going, wah, doesn't it? And now we've gone, lower. Now, was that the same saxophone? Let's hear it again and let's see if there's a transition change. Because that's high. Yeah, no, it might actually be all the same saxophone, but we've gone very, very quickly from up here to right down to the bottom of this guitar. It's basically a 3 octave line there. Really, really quite something. Something like an augmented scale, or augmented arpeggio, I suppose. Yeah, down to our E at the bottom. And then we're getting some of those squeaky harmonics again, aren't we? Do 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 do. So giving us yeah, our C sharp there as well. So the main things here that change are the G sharp and the C sharp on the A chord generally, and then we're more likely to have a C and a G on the C chord. So we have this kind of shifting modality, which is another thing that I love. Modal intercourse. Coitus modalis, would that be? Oh no, I've started to write to say I should not think extra things. Intercourse. It's not generally called intercourse, it's normally called like interplay or modal switching, or there's loads of things. But it's basically one mode, which is like a C major, bum, 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 and then we have an A major, which arguably is actually not even a different mode, but just a different scale, like a different key. But you can't constantly go between one key and another. I would see it as a modal switch with a pedal note switch, I suppose. I would see really C as our tonal center, and it's just that we go to a mode that doesn't use our tonal center. I don't know, that's a bit extravagant, I suppose, to explain what's going on. Oh! Well, we've suddenly got two chords we weren't expecting. Bow, bow. Well, it's our B and our G, but this time we've got the bow, 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 bow. We've got that going on with the change. So we have come across these chords before, and don't they change the scale that's being used? Yeah, definitely quite a lot. Yeah, and they're just in a different context, still with the same drum groove or close to, but they've emerged on different instruments, played in different ways, and without any indication that was going to happen. And there's our E. Though that E really felt more dark, didn't it? We didn't get any a G sharp in that one. We just got that low power chord E with the C over the top. So if we were going to get the G sharp, we'd expect the C sharp, but no. And then from there so we go back to the B. And finally we get the D sharp there, but the B hits with a D in it, so B minor, and then it goes to the B major. So I think what's a really nice thing about this one that I don't generally think about, are we going to run out of space on the thing? Yeah, let's move over here, is that this uses sort of uncertain, or I'll put uncertain tonality. So it's not clear whether we are major or minor from moment to moment, or it's very quick to change. So you could argue it's like a superposition of tonality. It could be major, or it could be minor, or it could be both at the same time, and it kind of is both at the same time, but we don't very regularly get clear dissonances where they're both happening at the same time. There's our G chord again. Yeah, but with that G chord, we go to the E on the top there. That's like the added sixth to this chord. We do have a moment, I think, where we have the D sharp, again, false relating to that previous chord, but then it changes and it makes itself more comfortable. There we slide through the G sharp to the G to make more clearly an E minor chord there than an E major. The harmonic rhythm is faster here as well, isn't it? We're not spending 4 bars on each one anymore. We're back to the B, but now more clearly a B major. Oh, little fun thing there, taking over from the keyboard. Suddenly feels like we're in a game. And now we're in a very different feel. All of a sudden, we had that seemingly innocuous, not really changing much, but then this sudden new riff comes through. Is that what it is? Let's hear it again. No, yeah, very close. That's what it is. So that's kind of like a D chord, a C chord, and an E minor. Obviously it doesn't sound like that, does it? And it's always just individual notes in octaves. Ba, ba, da, da, ba, ba, da, ba, 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 da. I don't know. That's sort of burying the lead though, because the main thing here is that absolutely crazy drum groove change. We've had basically the same thing happening throughout the whole thing here. Yeah, which I haven't really mentioned, but I guess we've got a bit of an axac there, an axac rhythm. 3 3 2 3 3 2 the whole way, and then suddenly boom boom da dum boom ba, with clear open hi-hats, much less of the soft pedal hi-hat sound. Now we're hitting it quite hard, we're hitting the snare, we've moved off the toms and the other interesting drums. We're just going to a standard rock beat, really. Is it like the Money beat, this? With more exciting kick drum as well. But yeah, this is a big switch up of mood, isn't it? So big textural shift. Big textural shifts. We also like, yeah, I mean, it's not even the same tempo really now, is it? We've gone from so sudden tempo changes, we really like those. I didn't write shift there, did I? Shift, sudden tempo changes. Yeah, it's not exactly what I would go for as a tempo change, but it's really nice. Oh man, my spelling. Tempo changes. Yeah, there we go. Because it goes a little slower, but nonetheless it's very bombastic. It has this big balls out feeling to it. And yeah, we had squealy, such a big range for that. I guess it must be like a tenor. It can't possibly be a Barry getting all that high, can it? Maybe it can. Either way, we like we like baritone sax. I guess we like tenor sax as well. Maybe I'll just cross out the baritone there. Bom, bom, bom. I was pretty sure it was baritone because a low C is really low, but maybe I'll check the ranges of these things. Now it feels like we're getting another verse, doesn't it? We've got a nice relationship between the low sax and the bass now, giving us some chords. Is it that? Let's hear the next set. Oh. Yeah, it's actually quite changeable. Let's hear it one more time. Why am I not surprised? Oh man, not all the way, that way back. Okay, and again. Jeez. Here we go. Yeah, so what's that? It is there, isn't it? So A to start with, then E, then we walk down past the D to the C, back up to the D. And then that's, yeah, so then it's C again, E, D. And they're basically giving us the power chord thing that the previous section was doing on the keys. Now the keys are giving us more of a constant melodic idea, motivic pedal. We've got much more movement in the bass and the sax working together there with those power chords. But I think the bass takes the low note most of the time, almost all the time, if not all the time, and then the sax is on the fifth above. And yeah, giving us a much faster harmonic rhythm than in previous sections here. So it almost feels like it's throwing us about, when the melody is much more reliable. And I'm not just talking about the do 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 ba ba do ba ba da, which is reliable, although it's quite changeable itself. The main melody also doesn't do too much here. Let's hear it. Yeah, so we get, you work so hard, you work so hard, you work so hard. 3 times, but they just run everything. So 3 repetitions and then just something slightly different on the end there. Let's hear if it stays the same next time round. Yeah, it basically is. Does it fit any of those chords specifically? Yeah, quite nicely. Not on that last one though, that kind of D-ish one. That's extra added notes, but quite a lot of the main melody notes really fit the chords nicely. And that's impressive because we've got more commonly moving chords than melody. So the do works in the main 3 chords, which are the A, the E, and the C. It doesn't quite work as well in the D, but it's not actually there very much in the D. So yeah, curious success there. Okay, so now it's actually gone back to our main 2 chords from the beginning, C and A. And again, we've got the relationship between the sax and the bass. matching those chords. They're staying for less long. I guess if we stayed for 4 bars at this tempo, it would really drag. So they're not staying for 4 bars this time. They're staying basically 2 bars at this tempo. Oh, and the bass quite nicely is giving us some rhythm there. In line with the it's doing the same rhythm as there, at least for certain parts, so we're getting that rhythmic identity quite strong. Whereas the sax has gone back to doing its harmonic kind of stuff. And then this "You Miss Last Summer" is like a melody we got in the first half. And it's like the "You Work So Hard," same contour. Do, 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 do. It then goes down though, doesn't it? So we've got interesting connections between the two halves here. Though they're doing quite different things rhythmically. I mean, totally different rhythmically. Harmonically, we've got connections. We all have motivic pedals in both halves. And we have similarities in the melody in both halves, but they're just, they feel very different, mainly because of that massive rhythmic difference. We've got a, I've only just noticed, but there's an extra melody at the same time as the do 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 boop boop. There's a counter melody. Well, I guess it's not a counter melody, but another harmony with that in the keys. Do boo do boo boo do boo boo do.
You miss last summer.
Do boo do boo boo do boo boo boo. Something like that, and it's changing between the chords, whereas the main motif is not. Yeah, we're getting actually quite a lot of that meaty rhythm from the bass there. That's quite powerful. And we've lost the drums. Yeah, and there are the two main keyboard things going on. Octaves in one ear, counter harmony in the other ear, but all fitting quite nicely in the sort of harmonic idiom at the end. I guess, yeah, we lost the chromaticism by the end. We had it really throughout, in the vocal melody, no less, but just towards the end there, we were giving more straightforward relationship between. In fact, yeah, all of it since the rhythmic change were fitted into more of a sort of E minor, I suppose. Yeah, with no F sharps actually, no F sharps in any of the chords or in any of the parts. So it doesn't quite feel like a fully realized E minor, but it definitely has, like, E minor feels like our home. Is that true? Yeah, I suppose that is true. Because when we have this to this, no, okay, maybe. Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel right with that. But okay, no, okay, maybe it's more like A minor is our home there then, but it's shuffling between the C and the A again. For a bit, actually, it did feel like E minor. Anyway, getting lost in that. I guess tonal ambiguity is cool as well. Like uncertain tonality is part of that. Yeah, all right, we don't need to write another thing then for it. But that's a pretty cool piece of music. I really like the initial groove, and I think it's very brave, the change to the other one. It's not quite how I would prefer it to go, but that's just my subjective opinion. I still find it very exciting. I like the change in textures as well, the way that different instruments end up doing filling in roles or doing melodic roles at different times. Really, the big hitter of that one is the saxophone, which, as well as having a big old solo with 3-octave range, it also does these wonderful sort of harmonic low rumbles as well. Yeah, so a lot to enjoy about that one in that respect. Yeah, there are much more vocally impressive songs on the album. Lamb has a real histrionic performance on it. I also really like Angry Man and Lie. Just go and listen to the album. It's good. It's enjoyable. There's lots of music on it, lots of exciting little musical features as well, which is what we really care about. See you soon. Have a great old week. Bye bye. Good day.